Hello oral production students. This will be our feedback video for the week of June 8th. And this week we had two important things that I would like to talk about. One would be the worksheet for foreign words used in English, and the other would be steps for creating a good survey and good questions. So first I'm going to talk about the worksheet regarding foreign words used in English. So there was a quiz at the beginning asking you what you know about the English language. So that would have been based on the reading on page 5 of the document. So for those of you who have already done this, just so you can check your answers, I'm going to review what I got as the correct answers for that quiz. So for number 1, where did the English language originate? The correct answer should have been A, Germany and the Netherlands. And all of this can be found in the reading on page 5. Number 2, the correct answer should have been B, more than a million, because more than 1 million, right? So in the reading, they state there are actually more than 2 million words in English. So the closest one to that would be more than a million. That would cover it. That's why the answer is B. Number 3, what percentage of English words actually have their origin in a different language? Again, based on the reading, the correct answer is C, 80%. And for number 4, how many languages is it estimated English has borrowed words from? They give us the number 350 in the reading, so the closest one to that would be B, 380. So that would have been the right answer. Okay, moving on. You had some self-reflection questions to consider. How many words in your language have been borrowed by English? So there's not necessarily a right or a wrong answer for that section. All I was looking for is that you filled it in. Then you had to fill in the charts to the best of your ability, guessing which words come from which language, and then on one of the later pages you'll be able to check your answers. They give them to you. So that brings us to a list of words, and we have to determine if they are spelled correctly or incorrectly. So I'd like to take a look at those now. So number 1, embarrass. This word is actually spelled incorrectly the way they gave it to us. To make it correct, we have to add a second R. So it would be E-M-B-A-R-R-A-S-S as the correct spelling. Number 2, occasion, that's also spelled incorrectly. So for occasion, we have to change two things. We have to add a second C, first of all, and then we have to remove one of the S's. So the correct spelling is O-C-C-A-S-I-O-N. Number 3, accommodation, is spelled correctly, so we don't have to make any changes. Number 4, acquiesce, we have to add one letter. We have to add a C between the S and the E at the end. So it should be A-C-Q-U-I-E-S-C-E. Number 5, recommend. With recommend, all we have to do is remove one of the C's. Recommend only has one C. So that leaves it being R-E-C-O-M-M-E-N-D. Number 6, responsible, we have to change one letter. So instead of an A at the end, it needs to be an I. So the correct spelling should be R-E-S-P-O-N-S-I-B-L-E. Number 7, necessary, is spelled correctly. No changes there. Number 8, pronunciation. Notice the way I said it. That is the correct spelling. So instead of pronunciation, the way they gave it to us, all we have to do is delete the O, the second O that is, which leaves the correct spelling as P-R-O-N-U-N-C-I-A-T-I-O-N. Number 9, professional. Professional only has one F, so that's the first change we have to make. And professional has two S's, so that's what we have to add. So the correct spelling then would be P-R-O-F-E-S-S-I-O-N-A-L. Number 10, immediately, we have to add a letter here. So we have to add an E between the T and the L. So that means that the right answer is I-M-M-E-D-I-A-T-E-L-Y, and then it would be correct. Okay, so foreign is spelled correctly, no changes there. Number 12, accessible, we have to change one letter. So instead of an A at the end, we have to change it to an I. So it should be A-C-C-E-S-S-I-B-L-E, and then it would be correct. For aficionado, we have to just remove one of the F's, since that word only has one F. So the correct spelling then is A-F-I-C-I-O-N-A-D-O. Anniversary, we have to change the E at the end to an A. So then it becomes ANNIVERSARY. And 15, ingenious, we have to add a letter. We have to add an O. So it becomes INGENIOUS. And the last word, number 16, minuscule, is spelled correctly, so no changes are needed there. So that'll do it for my feedback regarding that particular worksheet. Just also keep in mind that the answers to the questions for all of the sections can be found on page 5 of the document. Next, I'm going to talk about creating a survey. So when you create a survey, there are some good practices to follow. First, you want to write questions that are simple and to the point. And this is because the idea here is that you're writing questions that your reader can understand easily without having to read it multiple times. Because a lot of times they don't have time to take your survey. So the less inconvenience that you cause for them, the better. And the more likely they are going to be to complete your survey. So again, write straightforward, easy to read questions. Number 2, you're going to want to use words with clear meanings. So you will use words that are more commonly understood, such as almost all, a majority of, none, a few, and try not to use words with ambiguous meanings or words that might be understood differently from one person being surveyed to the next, because you want to have consistent results. Okay? Third one, limit the option or the number of ranking options. So when you ask your respondents or the people taking your survey to rank your items in order of preference, it's important to try to keep it to 6 items or less, because if you have too many, they might become overwhelmed, their answers might not be accurate, or they might just give up on the survey. So 6 or less as far as like ranking options, if it's like a spectrum type answer. And for the next point, in a multiple choice question, you would ideally cover all options without overlapping. So here's an example of what I mean by overlapping. If you're asking people what their age is on a survey and you give them options such as 18 to 25, 25 to 30, or 35 to 45, what's happening there? So the 25-year-olds can either answer for the first group, the second group, and the 35-year-olds can answer with the middle group or with the higher group. So that's a poorly designed question. So ideally, you would have the 35-year-olds and the 25-year-olds only be able to answer for one or the other. That way, all of them are going to answer that way. If not, if you leave it this way, then some 25-year-olds will be answering that they are part of the first group, some for the second, and you see what I mean. So you want to make sure that each type of respondent can fall clearly into one group or the other. And that's going to help you. That's going to provide more valuable data. Next, you want to avoid double-barreled questions. Here's an example of one of those. How far would you be willing to drive for dinner and a movie? So we're asking about dinner and a movie. So maybe they're willing to drive very far for dinner, but not so far for a movie. That's what we mean by a double-barreled question, and that's not a good question. You should separate that into 2 questions. How far would you be willing to drive for dinner, period? How far would you be willing to drive for a movie, question mark. So you want to ask one question at a time so that it's clear. Okay? Next, you want to offer an out for questions that don't apply. Some respondents can't or won't feel comfortable answering certain questions. So for that, you just want to add an option as well on your survey, if possible, saying does not apply or I don't know, or decline to answer. Something like that, so that they have an out to questions that they would rather not answer. And finally, you want to avoid offering too few or too many options. So a good guide is to offer a list of what you think are the most probable, the most common choices, and then at the end offer an other option, where you would write other and then a blank space where they can fill in additional information of their own. So that'll allow you to cover all bases more effectively. So that'll do it for this week's feedback video. Next week we have a few more things to talk about, so if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time.